the people that I tried to get help from didn't understand my industry. And so over 10 years, I took classes and workshops like this and invested my time in getting a better business background with education. And that's been very helpful for me as a creative person, and it's very helpful for other folks who are creative scatterbrains like me. So the other assumption is that all of you are business owners somewhere in a journey of either thinking of starting something, or you've started something and you're not really sure where to go next, or you've been in something for several years and maybe it's not quite as lucrative as you'd hoped, or flexible with your time as you'd hoped, or maybe you just are tired of working from morning till midnight and your to-do list never gets smaller and you never feel that satisfaction of feeling like a real business owner. So those are the assumptions that I'm going into. All right, so I also think of myself not so much as a great public speaker, so much as like a teacher. So I'm going to ask for some input at certain points, starting with the worksheet that I think on yours is called the reflection worksheet. I want to get to know a little bit about the types of industries that we're working with here, your goals for the industries, for the businesses that you started. And that's why I have my signing sheet, so that I can actually help shape the course of what we're going to talk about and work on. Here. Now I have space too. Okay, so if we're going to learn how to run a successful business as a creative scatterbrain, we kind of have to define, in my mind, what success is. And that's the biggest first part that we're going to talk about today, is how to define, not how to, you obviously can define it for yourself, but defining your success, defining your end game, your goals, and then how to set goals that will properly take you week by week toward your end game, and not just jumping all over the map week to week depending on what you want to work on that week, and then you never actually do productive work in your business. And then the other thing we're going to talk about, if we have time, is time management. If we have time. We're going to talk about time management if we have time. Because that is one of the other big factors for streamlining your work toward your success goal. All right, so success is going to be different for each of us. I'm going to ask maybe 4 or 5 brave souls to raise their hand and tell me what you consider the reason for starting your business, and what you consider your success measurement, if you feel like your business is a success or not. All right, so does anyone want to jump in? If not, I'm going to pull a couple. Yeah, go ahead. What's up? What's your name?
I'm Marina MJ.
Hello.
Hey. Hi.
And what business are you in?
I am in videography and photography, like advertising and event videography.
All right, and why did you get into that? Why did you start it as a business?
Because I wanted to change the world one image at a time.
Oh, very nice. All right, and what's your measurement of this is a success for me, for my family, for my life?
I want to become an expert in this field.
And you don't care if you never make a dime?
I believe if I become an expert, people will come to me over anybody else, because they will trust that I know my field,
Okay.
and I will deliver the best quality for the best price.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a different kind of measure of success than we've had so far at the other workshops.
It takes a lot of research and reading and studying to become an expert. So that's why I want to become that, because I'm a nerd.
Raise your hand if you have a topic that you totally geek out on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully you geek out on something related to your business, because that's a good starting place. Who else wants to tell us a little bit about your definition of success for your business? No? Okay, yeah. What's your name?
Mark Rogers. And it was the Rich Dad Poor Dad light bulb moment where I figured out that instead of trading time for money, I wanted to create multiple streams of passive income so that at some point I could not trade time for money.
Very good. And with the Rich Dad Poor Dad, do you have a family that you're hoping to spend that time with instead of at work? Yeah. I think a lot of the people that I meet start a business to allow for more flexibility in their lives, because the priority in life over the past, I don't know how many years, this is my personal speculation, priorities they tend to kind of blur, and you can't see the forest for the trees, and you forget that you only have one life. And so I'd rather spend as much time with things that matter to me. And the things that matter to you might be your hobby, which you've turned into a business, and then you're killing two birds with one stone. Right? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I'll go ahead and share mine on the heels of what he said. I'm a real estate broker, and I too got into this business for freedom and flexibility. I've got 2 boys. I worked in marketing and, a lot of scurrying around, and I got into something that was even more scurrying around, but I have the autonomy to scurry around how I choose. So that's why I started. And if you want to know what I consider the point of success, is when I can raise other people up and employ other folks. I also started a school so that I can teach and help other people figure it out.
Very cool. All right, so I like hearing all the different measures of success, and this is what makes me feel like I don't fit in as an entrepreneur. A lot of people who write entrepreneurship books cater to the concept that to be a true successful entrepreneur, you have this idea, you've fostered this idea into a very lucrative business or a successful business financially, and then sell that business off and either start a new idea from the ground up or retire and stop working altogether. And I don't define my success as such. And so here's an example I like to give. One of the women that I work with is a mother of 3 boys, and she's in a fortunate enough situation that her spouse's income meets their needs, but she decided to turn her hobby into a business because they had a goal ever since they had met of having children of their own, but also adopting others. And adoption is expensive, and it wasn't looking like that was going to happen financially for them. So her goal with her business is to save enough in the next few years to be able to adopt that 4th child. And so the reason I use that example is if she were to meet that goal and then shut her business down, never to be heard from again, would you still consider that to have been a successful business? Or do you consider that not really a worthwhile venture because it was only around for 5 years and that can't possibly be considered a successful business? And I do. I would consider that successful because she had a goal, she had a financial goal, she met it, and then fine. Sure, if she could sell the business off to somebody else to continue that product, great. But if not, I don't consider that unsuccessful. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define our success, what that looks like, and we're going to set a goal. We're going to break that goal into little milestones, take those milestones, break them into smaller action items, and we're going to march toward that, right? And how many of you guys are visual? Like more visual, yeah. So I'm much more of a visual person, and I like to actually physically have this kind of chart broken out for myself, where I have my definition of, okay, this is where I feel like I've hit that, I'm doing the right thing, my business is working, and then breaking those into phases. So for example, and this is what I want you to think about next, break your big goal into some phases. They don't have to be super, super specific, but for example, with a dance studio, you might say the first phase of opening my dance studio is going to be that I teach at various locations that I rent studio space from. And then once I have 3 or 4 classes that are full every week, then I'm going to phase 2, open my own studio space where I have one little dance studio and I fill that up. And after several years or months, depending on how successful the market is, once I've filled all of the classes teaching every day, then I'm going to open a studio space phase 3 with multiple locations and multiple teachers. And then the last phase, I'm no longer teaching, but I'm going to start offering online courses and maybe helping other dance studios or traveling and offering workshops and things like that. So think about your business in terms of phases of growth that you could put on that timeline moving forward. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start setting some proper goals to march toward that. All right, so first I want you to take 1 minute and think about maybe 3 or 4 phases of growth for what your business is going to be. feel like I need to have like the Jeopardy music on hand. What's that? Oh, you can do, this one doesn't have a blank space for you specifically, so just, you can just jot it down anywhere on that worksheet. Or you can just think about it, you don't have to write if you don't want to. As you're finishing that up, the next thing I'd like to detail is the proper way to set goals. And that may seem like obvious, but real proper goal setting can be the difference between knowing exactly what you need to be doing at that moment on that day when perhaps your creative inspiration strikes you like lightning and you dive down a rabbit hole and it's been 3 days and you haven't actually done anything on your to-do list because you got sidetracked designing a line of merchandise that says she believed she could, so she did. I don't know anything about that, honestly. But having those really well-defined goals might help you know that you can get back on track so that you don't go to bed feeling guilty that you didn't accomplish anything. So yes, I know that I set this aside. I picked up a different goal, I worked on it, and I can get back to that. So, how do you set proper goals? Have you guys heard of SMART goals? S-M-A-R-T? Yes, I'm not spelling SMART because I don't think you're smart. I'm spelling it because it's an acronym. There's, what are they, Steve? It's like M is manageable.
Specific, measurable.
Anyway, that's as much as you need to know because I don't use those. I use DAM goals. I'm not going to write that on the board actually because I'm not going to write DAM across it. So I use DAM goals, D-A-M-N, because that's more fun for me to think about. And that stands for goals that have a deadline, goals that, that are actionable, and I'll explain what that means. M is measurable. I just keep wanting to say motivation, and that's not the right word. M is measurable, and then N is you've thought about what the negative consequence of not doing it would be. So when I say actionable, I mean if my goal is to make more money in 2020, I'm not just going to say, hey, I'm going to make more money in 2020. I'm going to be very specific. I don't want to just make more money today. I don't want to just make $50 today. Actionable is what can I actually do today that is going to take me to that goal, such as I'm going to initiate 30 conversations with people on Facebook that are in my target market, and the goal is by the end of the day, hopefully I've sold $50 worth of merchandise to somebody. So an actionable goal is I'm going to actually initiate these conversations. I have a deadline because it's the end of today. I have a specific measurable quantity, $50, right? And the negative consequence of that I'm going to assign to it is if I don't make $50 today, then I'm clearly not making enough money. And if I have my quarterly projections divided into $50 a day and I don't meet my quota for the day, then that means I have to work twice as hard tomorrow or get lucky, right? So if you're not like loving numbers, because I don't love numbers, and that's why we're the creative types, right? It's really, really great for you to spend a few weeks, a month if you have to, working through your numbers so that you know the answers to questions like, how much money do I need coming in every month to cover my business expenses? How much money do I need every month to cover my personal goals, either my family or vacation or whatever, your savings, whatever that personal finance you need. How many clients do I need to cover those costs? So having those broken down, can really help you. So when you go, did any of you guys ever work like a traditional retail job?
Yes.
Yeah, and did you have those either morning huddles or like a monthly, and they're like, here's our quarterly projections, and we're supposed to have hit 5 target red cards by Friday, and we've only gotten 2, right? Okay, I always zoned out because I'm like, projections, I don't care about projections, I don't know what that means. But I have projections now, and it's actually not as horrible as you think it would be. And so what we do at the Lady Boss Nation, which is the company that I recently started, is we work together to be able to fill out one of these fancy little Excel spreadsheets that breaks down our year into how much money do I need, how much money do I want, what's the growth that I need to get there. Let's break it into 4 quarters of the year. Let's break that into 3 months in a quarter. Look at the math, I just did it in my head. Let's break that down into week by week. How much do I need to make? How many clients do I need to be getting, etc. Right? And so if this is something that you think would behoove you as a creative scatterbrain, this is one of the courses that we do. Every month is a different topic. It's broken into week by week emails, videos, like 10 minutes a day of work so that you can squeeze it in between everything else that you're trying to do. And this was our January course. So setting these projections for the entire year, and you can go back and purchase the past courses. So that's the kind of thing that we do at the Lady Boss Nation if you are curious about what this flyer was all about. So if you are interested in doing that, you can look that information up, because the goal setting, that's a big part of your year, right? So we also use these fancy color coordinated charts because we're visual people, where we take that priority, we break it into 3 goals, and we break those 3 goals into actionable steps. And so most of us use one of these per month. And so like every week or every few days, we're checking one of those actionable steps off the list. But this could be this exact same chart for any of your goals. This could be your end game broken into your phases that you just wrote down. And then each of your phases, you can be breaking that down into what can I work on this month to get toward that. And then et cetera, et cetera. And you can use Excel and just keep going. Bigger and bigger and bigger. So what I want you to do now is set a damn goal for this month. So take those phases, think about what phase you're in right now. Think about what are some of the projects that you have in mind right now for actually growing your business. And set just one goal. Practice setting one goal for the month of March that has a specific deadline, that has a measurable quantity associated with it, and that has an action step. So I always ask people, what are 3 things that you did today to attract new leads? And they're like, oh, well, I mean, I'm running an ad. No, that's not actionable. What are you doing? Who are you talking to? How are you finding those leads? All right, so do that, and then we'll go into time management.
You make good time.
I skipped a lot. The way I see it, stuff I skipped, it's in the book.
You might have said her men invited to that Lady Boss Nation.
A what?
I said her men invited to that Lady Boss Nation.
Men are welcome. I wanted there to be a place where, for a change in the world of business, I didn't feel like the odd person in the room. And so what ended up happening when I started my first I have 2 businesses right now. I have Spark Your Work, and I have the Lady Boss Nation. The Lady Boss Nation was just one little piece of an idea for marketing Spark, because I found that most of the creative types that I was working with, most of them were women. And most of us who are insecure women trying to feel like a business owner when we're, taking pictures and you're laying on the floor and trying to negotiate prices, you don't necessarily feel like a tough business person, right? And so I started this little Facebook group called the Lady Boss Nation, just for people to start venting or asking questions or whatever they wanted to do. And that tripled in a year, and Spark didn't. So, yes, exactly. So that's what I call that my market research now. The market research told me that I should follow the Lady Boss Nation.
Exactly what that is.
And, yeah, so we turned that into the one-on-one coaching. We turned that also into group coaching with the online courses that just launched in January. So you can learn little pieces of business in between whatever 100 other things you're trying to do that day, right? So as you're finishing up your goals, just keep in mind goals do 3 really, really important things for creative scatterbrains. They take that big, overwhelming end game goal and they make it manageable. If you are dreaming big enough, you're probably going to get overwhelmed at some point with all the things you need to do. And so you're either, like me, you have this to-do list that's like 10 pages long and you're running 100 miles an hour like a crazy person from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, and you can't sleep because you're thinking of all the things you didn't do and not the 15 things you did do. And so you go to bed feeling like you haven't accomplished anything. So that's what I do when I get overwhelmed. I rush and I work as much as I can and I don't take a moment to appreciate what I'm finishing. Any of you guys like that? Yes? Okay, great. The other type of person is like my best friend who has a long list of things she needs to do to accomplish something and just shuts down and doesn't do any of it. She's like, I don't know where to start. I'm just gonna play on social media and pretend I'm doing market research. And then you're in a rabbit hole on social media taking whatever live Facebook video somebody's offering that day, and then it's your lunch break and you're like, well, now I feel guilty because I didn't do anything this morning. So then you like distract yourself from the guilt by watching Netflix for like 18 hours. Is that anybody in here do that ever when you're overwhelmed? Every other week. Yes. So that's why I like having these guys, because I might have 10 different projects that I'm working on mentally, and so I'll have one of these for each project. And if I wake up and I'm like, I do not want to work on that because it's overwhelming me, I can set this one down and pick up another one that's more interesting to me for that day or easier. And I know mentally that I have this file box of these actual goals that I can go back to. I'm not going to go to bed freaking out that I forgot something, because it's like, it's okay. It's still there. Maybe next month I'll be feeling it, or I'll have learned something that helps make that not so overwhelming. So that's how goals can be manageable if they're specific and challenging. And challenging is another key point to how successful you are at accomplishing your goals. That's the motivation side of it. Goals provide motivation for us. And so here's an interesting statistic for motivation. Let's see if I can find it in my notes. People who have accomplished a goal are 97% more likely to accomplish another one. So it doesn't matter how big your goal is. If you accomplish one of them, you're 97 more likely to accomplish another. And so if you've ever been on a weight loss journey, that's kind of exciting, because it's like, oh, so if I lost 1 pound today, now I'm motivated, I can do it again tomorrow. Maybe I can lose 2 pounds by the end of the week. Yeah. So that's motivation, and that gets me excited, and I get this little like adrenaline high thinking statistics push me forward, like, okay, I'm gonna be that 97%.
Who said that? The 97%. What?
Actually, I made it up.
Most stats are.
No, I literally made it up.
Did you ever see the general that was giving a motivational speaking? He talked about making your bed in the morning. Just talk about that. It's pretty good. Look at that. I forget the general's name, but pretty cool speech.
The point of that is the idea of motivation, and having a goal and working toward a goal motivates you. The real statistic is, according to the American Psychological Association, people who set goals that are both specific and challenging are 90% likely to achieve them, more likely to achieve them than if they don't have those goals. So specific and challenging, that's where the DAMN comes in, because it forces you to be specific. And being challenged versus something so easy that it's not challenging apparently makes your goal setting better. And then the other nice little factoid about motivation is studies have shown that earning rewards at various levels will statistically change how likely you are to reach your goals. So that's why in the Lady Boss Nation, because I'm a dog trainer too, right? I love reward and motivation. In the Lady Boss Nation, every few months, once you've accomplished certain things, you like unlock a present. You get like a fancy mug or a pen or a notebook. I'd be happy to sign you up. In fact, if you sign up today, I can hand you your free mug for signing up instead of mailing it for $17. Time management. Let's talk about time management. Does anyone have any questions about goal setting? Before we, yeah,
So you were saying that goals do 3 things. You said,
you're right.
oh,
What was the third?
maybe you said it.
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Accountability. Thank you for holding me accountable to all 3 of my points. Goals provide manageability, motivation, and accountability. So having that person, because when you work for yourself, you don't have a boss who's like, did you finish that thing that I told you to finish last week? You have to be your own accountability. So by having a month-long schedule of these are the milestones I should be hitting, these are what I should be doing each day to hit those, and then being able to see, did I check it off or did I not check it off? That's nice for having accountability. Also having a business coach is great for having just saying. So speaking of schedules, we're gonna talk about time management. I've got a lot of strategies that I've collected from a variety of places that I've implemented myself or have experimented with on my lady bosses to see what are some of the best tips for us creative types. And here they are. You ready? Number 1, create a schedule for yourself as if you have a normal 9-to-5 job. This actually came first, the first time I heard somebody suggest this was my brother, who had a really hard time with school. But one of the things that he finally realized helped him get his butt out of bed and go to college classes was he treated it finally like a 9-to-5 job. He said, okay, I clock in, even if I don't have class until noon, I clock in and I start doing homework, studying, doing something that works toward one of my goals in academia. And so that really helped him. And that has helped me with working from home. How many of you guys work from home? Woo woo. How many of you guys work from home where there are dogs barking or family members coming in and out? Right, that's super distracting. Super distracting. So creating a physical space that is my office at work instead of working from the kitchen table, even if it's the little IKEA desk that's only this big, because that's as much space as you can fit it next to the kitchen table. It's really, really helpful to have a physical space. It's very helpful to have a schedule where you're like, okay, from 9 to 3, I am clocked in. I'm gonna take a lunch break. I'm gonna take my breaks, and on my breaks, I'm gonna happen to do laundry, but I'm still clocked in, and I'm not gonna get distracted. I'm gonna go back to work. So having that schedule, a lot of people will tell you that you should mark off a bunch of your little easy tasks in the morning on your to-do list. And I recently actually saw this going around on Facebook. There's like one of those graphics that's like, the best thing you can do for your productivity at work is write down all of your easy, short, simple tasks, check them off first thing in the morning, and then start plugging away at your big tasks. So for a photographer, the big tasks would be maybe like editing a whole wedding full of photos. Or for me, when I was freelance writing, that would be sitting down and writing a whole article in one sitting. My problem with that, and I only in the past 6 months have really experimented with this. My problem with that is my productivity is like fire from about 6 in the morning to like noon. Man, if I didn't have distractions and a creative brain, I could take over the world, because I have so much energy during those times, and I'm really focused. Like, I can sit at my computer for 4 hours straight and not even realize it. But after 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I am horrible. I would be a horrible employee because big procrastinator in the afternoon. So I switched it. So the first thing I do before I do anything else is an hour and a half of focused work on a big project. All right, and so this is combining another tip. Another tip is don't check your email first thing you do in the day. And that was actually a Tim Ferriss thing have any of you read the 4-Hour Work Week? No. It's an interesting read, or listen if you don't have time. I used to have a job where I commuted for an hour and a half each way, and I listened to it on tape. It's an interesting one. Never mind, I'm not gonna go into that. There are a lot of things that aren't applicable to some of us in that book, but what was very applicable to me is don't check your email laying in bed or the first thing you do when you clock in and sit down, okay? Because it's going to give you 100 other things to add to your to-do list, and it's going to shift your brain to doing them because that seems urgent, and those other things that were on your to-do list are going to get set aside. So here's how I do it. My schedule, I wish I brought my actual calendar with you so you can see. My schedule on a daily basis is I have an hour-and-a-half work block, and then I have like a 30-minute check your email moment, and then another hour-and-a-half work block, then my lunch, and then my afternoon is 30 or 45-minute work blocks. And it works for me because if I have this big looming thing that I keep pushing off every day that I don't want to do, like finishing writing a book, it causes me to not appreciate all the things that I have accomplished that day. And so I would much rather go to bed feeling like, okay, I finally got that thing out of the way. And what actually ends up happening is after I clock out, even if I have those 2 or 3 little things that I didn't do, they may nag on me just enough to where after dinner, I'll like sneak over back to my desk and do 1 or 2 of them, or all 3 of them, and then I go to bed, everything's actually done. So that's how it ended up working out for me. So far my tips are, create an actual schedule for yourself. Schedule your time every day. Schedule it in work blocks so that you can put a timer on, turn your phone off, and work for that amount of time during your work block without getting distracted, getting up, going to get another handful of popcorn from the kitchen, walking the dog. Turn on a timer for an hour and a half. Don't move until the timer goes off. And you will see huge differences in how long you can focus on a task before you start getting sidetracked. If you know that there's a break coming up, you can wait. You can answer the phone later. You can silence your phone and go back and check that text later. Don't check your email until after you've accomplished your one big project for the day. Let's see. Turn off the TV. If you work from home, turn off the TV. This seems like such a silly one, but I don't know if you've read all the studies. They show that when you get distracted, it takes your brain like 10 full minutes to get back on track. Even if you don't think about it, it really does distract you. Use a timer for increments of focused work blocks. Try not to drop what you're doing to answer the new texts and emails. And if the phone rings, same thing. If you're in one of your work blocks, just wait till it's over. Keep a notepad next to you for those little things that pop up, like a text or an email or an idea that says, hey, can you send me that revised version of such and such? I have this notepad, this is why I started doing these, that has a schedule for later section. So this is my week. These are the things that I need to accomplish to grow my business each week. This is my schedule it later. The email that came in, the phone that came in, the idea, I put it there, and that way I know it's not gonna get lost. And before the end of the week, when I tear this guy off and throw it away, I'm gonna transfer everything from here into one of my work blocks for the next week. So I know it's gonna get done. So it helps me stay very organized. And then the last note is aim small, miss small. Do you guys know what quote that's from? Nobody? I got it.
Patriot.
What?
Patriot.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Yes, it's from the Patriot. The boys are learning how to shoot, and he says, aim small, miss small. And I've always loved that, and I apply it to my tasking for the day. We are completely unrealistic with how much we can accomplish in a day, right? So I'm just gonna randomly ask, I should use your names because I got them for a reason. Christy, where are you at? Christy, tell me, how many hours in a day do you have assigned for working on your business?
5.
5. How many do you have?
I don't know, probably 10.
10. Steve?
I actually work, like, I mean, I have a job on my side. Sorry.
That was awesome.
I have
Steve has a traditional 9-to-5 job where he teaches entrepreneurship to children.
And so
And by
I
children, I
probably
mean high
do
schoolers.
4 to 5 outside of that.
Okay, that's
pretty much
4 to
all
5.
evening, I'm working on some other thing.
Anyone have less than 5? Anyone have more than 10?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So everyone has a different amount of time that you're spending working on your business. So you can't set the same amount of expectations as everyone else. I have a woman who's 9 months pregnant, and she just went through the January projection setting course, and I'm looking at her projections, and she compared them to where she was last year, and I was like, there's no difference here. There's no difference in how many accomplishments I said, honey, you know you're about to have an infant in your arms, and every spare hour that you have is going to be spent sleeping, which is like an hour a day. You're not really thinking, right?
Yeah.
Anyone who has spent time with an infant in which you are responsible for that infant's care in any capacity knows that planning 6 to 8 hours of work in which you're going to grow your business is not realistic. And it doesn't mean that she's weaker than anyone else or not as business savvy as anyone else. It just means that at that moment in her life, her goals definitely need to shift and be realistic. Yeah. I was very guilty of making lists that were 2-3 pages long, and I would only usually be able to get through 7 to 10 of those items. So why did it take me so long to realize that I was being unrealistic? There's a very, very good chance, this is why, there's a very good chance that you are being very busy. You might be very, very busy all day long without being productive at all. All right? There's a chance that you might be busy without being productive. So the homework I'm giving you is to work on that for your time management. The time audit, this is not my original idea. The time audit is to pick 3 days in a week and set a timer for every hour and write down what you happen to be doing in that hour. And just be honest, it doesn't matter if you're like brushing your teeth, just write down brushing my teeth, doesn't matter. And it may seem really tedious and really annoying and really mundane, but I want you to consider if you have a nutritional change that you need to make or a diet change you need to make, the first thing the doctor tells you is to record everything you eat in a week and be honest so that we can start weeding out either what your allergy is or what's causing your problems, right? You have to. So this is the same thing. I'm gonna ask you to write down everything you're doing in a day over the course of 3 days and then evaluate your priorities. This is hard for us. Same thing that goes for how much time you have in a day to dedicate to your goal setting. You have to be realistic about the fact that your business may not need the same types of tasks done as everyone else's business. So, for example, in real estate, it might be super helpful to spend time on LinkedIn connecting with people in specific geographic regions who might, or like businesses where they may transfer people. That might be super helpful to spend time on LinkedIn. There are a lot of courses that tell you that LinkedIn is like the greatest thing that ever happened to marketing, right, Steve? Right, Steve teaches a LinkedIn class. However, your business your industry, that may not be as fruitful. I've discovered that dog trainers don't really need to meet people on LinkedIn all day. Like that's not, why not? Let's try it. We can find people in my area and just ask them if they have a dog. It's not actually as much of a money-making strategy or a business growth strategy to invest your time there. If you're a dog trainer, it turns out, this is not a scientific study, by the way, this is just anecdotal from a few people I've worked with on it. So deciding what items are more productive for your industry may take some serious thought. You may see other people working on things that they're like, oh, I need to have a great LinkedIn profile. So you've got to categorize things at the end of your time audit. Very important, not particularly important, and not really important productive work, just busy work. Just busy work. And there are examples. You can also shift things. Can I shift the time and be more productive if I did it at a different time? If you're not working on activities that directly make you more money or are directly growing your business in a way that will make you more money soon, then it may not be productive for you to work on it right now. Especially if you only have 4 or 5 hours a day to do it, right? So I'm gonna ask you guys to do the time audit sometime in the next few weeks, and I'm gonna be emailing you and checking. But right now your task is to write down one of the strategies that we talked about from time management or scheduling your day that you're going to work on and practice this month. So whether it's using time blocks or setting timers or shifting things around in your day so that you're being more productive, think about something that you do that is a busy work and not a productive business growth work. And write those down right now. That'll be your last homework, I promise. Does anyone want to share one of your biggest challenges that we didn't talk about as we wrap up?
So, I time block as I have to. I think my biggest challenge is you make all of these lists and you make all of these things that you plan to do, but you get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
And or you forget to read the list.
You forget to read the list.
Then you go back to that list and it's like, oh, that's right, I forgot about that. So like just sticking to, for me,
Your plan for the day.
sticking to my plan for the day is probably the most difficult. I have my times blocked when I do lead generation, when I do, projects and things like that. And I have, a specific day of the week that I'm doing a specific thing, but for whatever reason, I get taken into different directions. Every day, it seems like I'm in a rabbit hole that I have no business being. It wasn't on the list.
I have recently decided that I am not capable of following a diet plan. And so my guidance was to set a timer for every single thing. And this is my first week doing this. And so I would welcome the challenge for you to also do this with me. Set a time at the beginning, a timer for the beginning of each of your work blocks, and you can change the name of your timer, your alarm, to be like, go look at your list.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing the right thing? Because mine says things like, are you drinking water right now? Because if not, you should be. And it's so silly. I have a 10:45 a.m. alarm that tells me to go change the laundry and take a break. And that's the same, like I have to get up from my computer, because 10:45, that's usually about 2.5 hours after I've sat down, and I'm in the zone, and I'm like, so my alarm goes off, I'm like, I gotta change the laundry, and so that's my movement break, because my laundry is on a different floor. I have to get up, move around. Movement breaks are also really, really good from a scientific study standpoint. So why don't you and I both try the timer challenge this month? And you as well? Great, so we'll do.
I know. I was gonna say that. What if you start ignoring the timers? Can I do that?
How do you ignore a timer?
All the time.
About 3
Oh.
weeks. About 3 weeks.
I would highly recommend signing up for one-on-one business coaching, and I will call you and be like,
Yeah.
you can't ignore me.
And that's my problem. I work alone.
Yeah.
There's nobody that.
Yeah, there's nobody
I
to
can
tell
hold
you.
accountable to, and so it's like, well, I'll just go have margarita party.
Well, I highly recommend scheduling every Thursday afternoon. I have scheduled that from 3 to 4:30 before. Technically, I could still be clocked in, but every Thursday is usually when I'm the least productive, I've found. And so I've now scheduled Thursday afternoons from 3 to 4:30 is chill time. Go have a margarita. That would be my Thursday at 3 o'clock. Like, ooh, I'm being bad because it's the middle of the week. But if I know that that's going to happen, then I've now been much more focused on Thursday mornings instead of like, I don't want to work. I'm just gonna watch 10 episodes of Downton Abbey. And then you're Googling everything. So a timer, okay, so timer, accountability with somebody else, or scheduling in flexible time so that even if you do have a day where you're just really not committed, you can take it out of that time block and get back to work on another day. For me, it's Thursday afternoons. All right. Any other questions you guys want to talk about? Like, I'll mind blabbermouthing is done. But I want to hear, what are your challenges? Yeah.
So for me, and I'm sure a lot of you are like this as well, because I think it is a different mindset with certain people, you know, certain entrepreneurs. We're a little more head in the clouds is what I call myself. I have so many ideas and I'm constantly thinking, and I've had multiple businesses. Problem is sometimes sticking with it, not because I'm lazy, but because I do get on that hamster wheel where I'm like, oh, this great idea, I've got to do this. Cycle around, talk myself out of it, get back to it. Oh, I'm gonna do it. And I'm doing that right now. And sometimes I feel like I set goals that are so big.
Yeah.
I'm going to Pakistan in April to visit some manufacturers for a company we're starting. You know, I'm all on God Paper says, well, why can't you find some manufacturers here? I don't know. Pakistan's cheaper. It's why not, right? I mean, why not? Give it a
Why
shot.
not? Okay.
Let's try it. Let's do this. This is going to be better. And then I freak myself out. I get freaked out because I know I can do it. I know I can. I know I've got what it takes to do it. And then I go, what was I thinking? I can't do this. I'm in too deep now. I can't do this.
Oh, yeah.
Panic. Total flipping panic. And I don't know how to get off the hamster wheel.
There's a wonderful, I just learned this woman, and I'm jotting this note down and email to you. There's a wonderful woman who does talks about, her name's Brene Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I really, really like, I've really resonated with her strategies for that type of thing, and for all of a sudden realizing, oh, I can't do this, I'm scared, like, I have this big idea, and like, let's jump together. And actually that helped me a lot through one of my spirals of, it's dangerous when you're a little too brave and you're like, oh, I'll start another business, why not? Like, it's not that big a deal, is it? And then you're like, oh, whoa, except now I have a lot of responsibility, and now I have employees that you're scared, what if you can't pay them that week, that kind of thing. So managing that emotional roller coaster, I really have enjoyed watching some of her chats about vulnerability. But,
What's her name?
oh, Brene, it's B-R-E-N, E with an accent. You can't see if I write it over here.
She does a lot of the TED Talks. Look up the TED Talks. She's on those.
Yeah, and she's got a Netflix special on right now, so.
But that was my exact question, like, how do you simplify all of your big, crazy ideas into one?
I sit down with a poster board and markers, and I have a giant circle in the middle with my goal. What is my goal for my business? Let's just say it's money. Crazy concept. And so I will have these little spirals of like, I want to have a line of merchandise. Will that be important? Right? I can't spell. And so all of these things, ideas, I'll add another sprout, and I'll say, okay, is this contributing at all to my goal of having more money? How much time do I think so I'll kind of make like a tiny little business plan, and I'll spend a few hours on a day really evaluating that idea. How much time do I think I'm going to need to invest in this in order to make the same amount of money that one of these other buyers is going to bring me? And like I said, I'm visual and I'm crafty, so I will be down there with different colored markers, and that kind of helps me. By the end of the day, I'm like, I'm exhausted. Never mind. And then the next day, I go back to my original plan. It doesn't always work, but it's nice to sit there and go through the thought, live with the thought, give it its due attention, and decide, is this going to be worth the time that it will take? Will it add value to my end game? I don't know. Okay. What do you, Steve, any additional input on how to manage big dreamers?
I'm the same way.
Oh.
And what I've learned is that if I don't learn it, years ago I said, if I don't learn to execute, I may not be the best executioner or executor. But if I don't learn to execute, I realize as a creative, that's gonna stifle my potential. For me, impact is very important, especially I'm a teacher. So in the position I'm in, if I can't impact my students, I'm doing a disservice to them. And because that was my value, I learned it. So it wasn't just me, because when it was just me, I was like, I'll watch Netflix or whatever. But also what I learned is I way overestimate what I can get. And a year or two ago, I started a master's program, and I told my boss, I'm doing this project, I'm doing one work project, I'm doing the master's degree, this one work project, and one other thing. These 3 things are the only things I'm doing this year. Now, that wasn't the only 3 things I did, but by saying that and setting it, like, my sole focus was finishing that master's degree, piloting my curriculum, developing my curriculum, and teaching my course. I was like, these are the only things I can handle. And so by being very honest with myself about what I can actually do, and this year's the same, I was like, I want to do this, I want to do this and this, and now I'm looking back at what I said in January, and I'm like, I have to choose.
I had a middle of the night moment, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, that makes a lot of sense.
And finding the right people to help, I mean, everybody has help too.
Yes.
Finding the right help is a really, and I'm trying to look it up, I was trying to look up right now, but I listened to a podcast or something here a while back, and he, or read a book, I forget how I found out about it, but he did a quadrant, and I think it was Bossy, B-O-S-I, builder, opportunist, innovator, and something else. Anyway, he helped businesses, and they came down, and he said, these are the 4 personality traits you need in business, and he says, you always need somebody the opposite quality. He did all these businesses where they had a builder and a opportunist, but they didn't have an innovator, and he said every business they did, he gives like 10 examples of like businesses that he made go from plateauing to like rocketing, or not even getting off the ground or rocketing.
That's a big deal.
Just to get the right person involved. But I mean, that's my problem in business is having the money to afford those people. Like, when do we pull that trigger? I mean, I know I gotta make $30,000 more to hire another technician. So how do we come up with that before we hire the technician? We kind of need the technician to get that money,
Yeah.
but we need the money to get the technician. That's my problem. That's my hardest part of business.
So what I want you guys to do is I want you to write down the questions that you want to ask and the challenges that you have. Jot them down. We're going to have an email conversation going on, but I do want to wrap this up for the people who do need to get back to whatever they're doing. A real job, a traditional job, or family, or traditional. Yeah. So jot those questions that you're not, and we also, I'll be hanging out so you can ask me directly, and I probably won't know the answer off the top of my head, so it can be a great discussion going on over the next week. All right? Yes.
Since we're wrapping up, I know Liz won't say this, so I'm gonna do it, and maybe embarrass her a little bit. I work for the Arkansas School of Math, Science, and the Arts. Liz was one of our graduates when it was Math and Science School. I just wanted to say, I've read her book, so if you have any interest in that, it's very practical, hands-on things that, she said this, but as someone who's I'm not selling the book, but I encourage you, if you have need of it, it's worth the $15-20 to do that. But I just, also as an Arkansan, I want to kind of put up my hand for what you all have invested, and we all invest as taxpayers for that school, and the investment we make in our young people, whether it's my school or others. It's so important that we have quality education in Arkansas, and people like Liz, that whether they stay here or they come here and invest in our community, I appreciate you being here and
That's
supporting
awesome.
us.
Thank you. Yeah, I grew up in Arkansas. I went to Memphis and then moved to Italy and then came back. Now I'm in Ohio and but my tour started right here in Arkansas, folks, because that's where the important people is and that's where the babysitter lives. That's my mom and my little boy out there. All right, let's wrap it up. If you have any questions, email me or come hang out with me up here. I have to hang out for a little while anyway. So, thank you. And yeah, come see us on what's that?
So how's the dance studio?
Sold it, moved to Italy, had a baby.
How you doing, girl?
I'll just
Yeah, you gonna be there?
Yes.
I'll speak tomorrow, so you'll get to see me make a fool of myself.
Sending selfies, don't you?
Is all your stuff on online and
I've been
whatnot?
working on it, and I'm just like, ideas